think I learned it at a young age that being a leader, it can't be just leading by example. I don't believe in that anymore. I think that's just being a great teammate. But like you said, with a QB and that it factor, um, it's being felt, it's being heard. But then once you are felt and heard, it's creating that influence to make others better. And I truly believe that you have it or you don't.
Welcome back, or welcome to Y Option. This is a special edition today. It's our awards edition. The season is over. The Broyles Award has been announced. Congratulations, Al Golden of Notre Dame. Also, Marcus Arroyo being the only offensive guy as the finalist. As always, I am Yogi Roth, joined by Jim Thornby. And our awards all season long are called the Go 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 Awards. They are presented by our founding partner, 76. We were so proud of these. Jim, you and I, late Saturday nights, early Sunday morning, we'd just be debating on the text thread from the airplane, man. But it was a beautiful year. And every week we got to give out these awards to coaches, players, quarterbacks, some you heard of, some you didn't know. It was really a beautiful experience. We heard from so many players that earned those awards, like when we were in New York City with Ashton Genty. I have a feeling we might hear his name here in a few minutes. But it was really fun. And 76, you've just been a phenomenal partner on this. So I hope everyone has enjoyed it. But we have spent a lot of time debating who is going to be the winner of the final awards here at Y Option. And Jim, today we're able to announce those.
Yeah, so we'll go ahead and start. It's Valentine's Day weekend as we're recording this, so we're going to give some love out to some of these stars here. So we'll start with our 5-star QB award, and for those that may or may not remember, we gave this award out to the best quarterback each week, regardless of what their recruiting ranking was. And in fact, if they had a not so good recruiting ranking, that actually kind of helped their status in this one. And our winner is Dillon Gabriel. He originally was a 2-star recruit. I think when he was originally recruited he was going to go to Army. He was signed to Army. Then all of a sudden, I think people started to sniff him out a little bit. And then he wound up, I think he bumped that up to a 3-star as he signed with UCF. But this year, it was just the culmination of a great career for him. He was the Big Ten Offensive Player of the Year. He finished third in the Heisman voting. He led the Ducks to a 13-1 record. Their only loss wound up to be the eventual national champions in Ohio State. He wound up breaking career records in the NCAA for most career touchdown passes in FBS history, most career games and starts, which he broke the record from Bo Nix, his predecessor. And he had won this award twice during the regular season. So kudos to Dillon Gabriel, someone I know that you have spent a lot of time with over this season.
Yes, and we're going to spend more time with him because he is our guest today as well, live and in person right here. First guest we have ever had in my little Venice Beach studio. So fired up for him. He's training for the NFL Combine, which is coming up in a matter of 10 days or so. Also, of course, training for his own pro day and then eventually the NFL draft. So he's going to come over tonight and we're going to have a conversation right here where we will present him this award in real time. We got a fun little twist when it comes to that. So check it out later in the episode. I think for me, Jim, when I think of Dillon Gabriel, I would tell my wife this. I was like, he's one of the very few players that I've covered I've been in college football now 25 years, which is crazy to think about, and broadcast for 17. He's one of maybe 2 or 3 players that I've been around that I would ever go on vacation with. That's how I describe him. I'm like, I just want to hang out with Dillon Gabriel. Like, he's got the it factor. So what is the it factor? We say it all the time. It's, can you walk into a room and can people feel your presence? And you make everyone better. We had a chance to watch him at the Elite 11 this summer. You can go back and watch that episode in the archives at yoption.com where we did our first real in-depth sit-down with him. And I watched him walk into a room of 20 high school quarterbacks, 4 other big-time counselors, and not only command respect, but do it in the most disarming, like, ohana, aloha type of way. He's just got this beautiful vibe to him. And then I watched him. We have photos of this that we've shared online. He and Pete Carroll, who's now the head coach at the Raiders, who also need a quarterback. But I watched Pete Carroll and Dillon and other guys like Cade Klubnik and company just bang around the position. And I sat there kind of as a fly on the wall navigating that conversation at the Elite 11. And I said, this guy is special. And then the moment that really solidified it for me over the summer was there's a moment at the Elite 11 finals where we have basically an accuracy challenge and we throw what is coined the rail shot, which is down the sideline. Think of like a cover 2-hole shot. Remember Tua Tagovailoa national championship game a handful of years ago. He comes in for Jalen Hurts and wins the game. That exact throw. And he is just spinning it. And he makes his way to the finals. And it's he and now a Cal quarterback in Jaron Sagapatelli. And they're going back and forth. And I know you remember because you're smirking. At the end, and Dillon is matching every throw with Jaron. Dillon just misses and dirts it on purpose. And he goes, give that man the win. Hook up my boy from Hawaii as well. And I just thought of that regard that he had for the craft, the regard he had for the Elite 11 event. He was there for the first time, was really special. Then cut to, I called his opener and then tracked him in the title game, the Heisman. We were there. Tim Henning, thank you for our new Heisman gear, by the way. In the set, we got a helmet, we got a mug, so fired up for that. And then called, did the pre and post game show at the Rose Bowl, and I've just been able to watch him at so many stops. And I think what nets out, and I'll ask him this later on in our interview, is what matters most to him. Because when he was getting recruited, to your point, as an unheralded recruit, he could have gone to a military academy. He said no. And then UCF came in, and then late came USC and Georgia. And for him, what always mattered most was playing. And I love that because he goes, I went to UCF to play. I didn't want to go somewhere and sit. And then after that experience, he gets injured, goes through, some challenging times like any quarterback does and meets the adversity. He looks to move on, and he's on his way to UCLA. And then Dorian Thompson-Robinson decides to come back. And he's like, no, what matters most to me is not living in LA and living in Chip Kelly's offense, which, again, now he's the OC at the Raiders, just throwing it out there. Yeah. He decides, no, I want to play. Goes to OU, kills it there. And then he gets his draft grade, and it wasn't what he had hoped. So again, what matters most? He wanted to play. Found his way to Eugene with Dan Lanning. He was courted by everybody under the sun in the country. Was a preseason front runner to win a bunch of awards. Ended up winning a bunch of awards, and then of course found his way to the Heisman as a finalist. And I just love who the man is. And then just to put some extra magic on it, we interviewed his mom, Dory, on the podcast as well. We didn't interview the quarterback dad. We brought his mom, and her spirit is exactly what you'd imagine. She's a competitor. She's an inspiration. She's a communication major. Back in the day, she was an athlete. But look how she shaped her son to lead in the style of integrity that he has. And I believe it, man. Of all the quarterbacks in this year's draft, and I'd even put in last year's draft, if you had to rank their it factor, I put Dillon's right at the top. Cam Ward is a special kid. Shador has, unique traits, obviously. Last year was awesome with Bo Nix and Michael Penix Jr. and Caleb and Jaden Daniels. Like, they're loaded. But I do think if you're going to talk about that factor, I think Dillon is the best I've ever seen. It's the best I've ever seen in my, relatively lengthy career now, being around quarterbacks. Why we wrote the book. Shout out to 5-Star QB, which is why he wins the 5-Star QB award. Congratulations, Dillon Gabriel.
Yeah, and then our next award will go to another one of the Heisman runner-ups that we got the chance to spend some time with in New York. And I think of our 4 awards, this was probably the easiest choice of the 4. The Go Gone Award goes to Ashton Jeanty from Boise State. He actually won the weekly award of this 6 times during the season, to which I actually joked with him in the elevator at the Heisman, like, yeah, we kept trying to find a way to give to someone else every week, but like you'd look at the numbers, it's like, no, Ashton wins again. So, I mean, just think about it. As I mentioned, he was the Heisman runner-up. He was on 95% of the ballots. He was actually on more percent of the ballots than the winner, who we'll foreshadow and get to here in a sec. But he had the second most rushing yards of all time in a single season, just shy of Barry Sanders' record. He rushed for 100 yards in all 14 games, at least 100 yards in all 14 games. In 6 of those, he ran for over 200. He led his team to a Mountain West championship. He took him to the first team of the CFP. But the Go Gone, it's all about the explosive play. So all the things I just listed were all great, but that's not why he won. He had 25 runs of 20-plus yards, led the country in that. He had 12 runs of 50 or more yards, which is more than double than anyone else in the country this season. And it was the most since Bryce Love had 13 in 2017. And then he had 5 runs of 70 plus yards. Again, more than double anyone else in the country this season. And the most since, I was surprised to see this one, the most since Khalil Tate also had 5, and also in 2017. So, I mean, when it comes to explosive, it was a complete no-brainer to give this award to Ashton Genty.
Yeah, it really was. Congratulations to him, and also what he did at Boise State. I mean, he put that team on the map. I mean, think about it. In the year that the Pac-12 completely reconfigured, Boise State eventually be in that league, the West Coast just rose up in a huge way. And as we look at college football through the lens of the West, he would have won it if we were based in Columbus, if we were based in Tuscaloosa. Like, it wouldn't have mattered. Exactly. And I just want to follow up on what you said, Jim, because watching you two talk in the elevator in New York City at the Marriott Marquis was awesome, because he just lit up. And in a world where we name this the Go Gone Award, again, presented by our incredible founding partner, 76, this guy could have gone to a number of schools. The way I talked to many coaches who, they told me the obvious, which is, hey, after we played him, we went up to him and said, hey, man, you good? You good? This is like 2 years ago, right? Like, everybody knew the talent that he had. And I think when you rewind him to the preseason, I'll still remember being in Las Vegas for Mountain West Media Days, along with Pac-12 and Big 12, etc. And here's this guy who had to have his own media day at his own hotel because he wasn't 21 years old yet. And the hotel that the Mountain West Conference chose to do their media day at, you had to be 21 years or older to get in. How about that? He had his own media day. We had known of him, but nowhere near the acclaim that he eventually gained. And I can remember talking to Mike Sanford about it in the preseason, who was on this show as well, who's a Boise State quarterback and a legend. He's always bringing the flag up there up in Boise. He just continued to reference how gifted Ashton is. And I think we saw it all year. I love that he got his flowers, whether it was a feature with Chris Peterson, finding his way to New York City, winning a bunch of awards. And then you look at those explosive plays. 25 runs or 20 plus. I mean, in a 14-week season, how many 20-yard runs do you even have in practice? This guy 25 in a game. I just think it's amazing. And the humility that he showed, which is, I think, a theme that we have so far at our Y Option Awards from the 2024-2025 season, is paramount. We've always wanted to be thoughtful. We've been thoughtful around these awards. Ashton, you earned it. It was a landslide, but it was all the things you did on top of playing and beyond the explosive plays that just allowed you to continue to light people up. And I think you're going to do the same thing in the NFL. So congratulations to you and to Boise State, a future member of the Pac-12.
Ready, set. Use French fries to go. Yeah, oil from French fries. Turn yesterday's leftovers into today's fuel. More power, lower emissions. 76 renewable diesel fuels all the ways you go, go, go.
Indeed. And that brings us to our next award, which is the That Dude Award. And when you win the Heisman Trophy, you kind of are that dude. And again, this is an award that we came up with, this past summer. We were doing all our brainstorming, and it wasn't always about looking in the box score. And it wasn't always about that. And it was good because I remember when we had our discussion with Andy Staples about him, a few months ago on the show. It was like, he's kind of a hard person to quantify. Travis Hunter. It's not always about the stat. Like, not having defensive stats is a good thing for a guy who plays on every down. That means they're not coming at you. However, let's go through some of these accomplishments for him. Again, he's the second player to win the Heisman with having significant snaps on defense. The other one being Charles Woodson from Michigan. He's the first ever to win both the Biletnikoff for the best receiver and the Bednarik for the best defensive player in the same season. Period. Not even just the same season. Just the first to ever do it. He was the first player in the history of the Walter Camp Awards, 135 years, to be first team on both offense and defense. He was the 7th unanimous All-American in Colorado history. Back-to-back Horning Awards for the most versatile player. Shocker. But then if you actually look at the numbers, he had 15 receiving touchdowns, which is the second most in FBS, 96 catches, almost over 1,200 yards receiving. On defense, 4 interceptions, 11 pass breakups. He had that unbelievably clutch game-winning forced fumble in the Baylor game in overtime to win that game. And then to top all of that off, he was also the academic All-American of the year. I mean, I don't think that even got really as much acclaim as it should have. I mean, to be able to do all the things he did and still kill it on the books as well, like that is that dude. I mean,
Yeah, it's really beautifully said. I can't help but think of the game 2 years ago against TCU and just the insane pick that he has to kick off his Colorado career. I mean, this is a young man who stole the headlines, went into Jackson State as a top player in America. Then you're wondering, what's he going to be? I can remember going to Colorado during his first spring practice and watching him run around as a wideout because he wasn't doing DB stuff in the spring because he didn't really need to. And then he just watched him continue to grow and evolve. And I just am reminded of a moment in my early 20s. I used to sit just like this, but I was next to Pete Carroll. And I was in the USC recruiting meetings every Wednesday morning. Burritos get passed around, and I was running the clicker, and I had all the tape back to my right. And he was sitting next to me. And I don't know why he had me sit next to him. I do now. I can get to that later. This is like a little Raider of theme, maybe, potentially for the show. And he would just continue to try to teach me different elements around evaluating. And the number one thing that I still hold true today is he goes, when it's close, he would say, if I was playing in the park, would I pick that guy or that guy? And I think when you look at all of these players that were up for that dude, and you just looked at look at who got votes in the Heisman, right? Cam Scatterbo won that a bunch of times. And there's so many players. Tetro McMillan, who would probably be the first receiver taken in the NFL draft. Like, so many gifted players were that dude. But I still think no matter what, you take him if you were playing in the park. I just do. Like, he just can do a little bit of everything. And I get that maybe he's not would I take him as a wide out over T-Mac? No. Would I take him as a DB over Caleb Downs? No. But when you look at all the versatility that he has and the level he's playing at consistently, and then you look at the game-changing plays. You referenced the Baylor one. I mean, are you kidding me? We're all watching that at 1 a.m. being like, down goes Colorado, and here they come on back. I mean, he just meets the moment. And I think what's been really fun, at least as a fan of the game, because we know Colorado, they kind of control the access around there to a large degree, is that as he won awards and got on bigger stage, you saw his personality really come out. And it wasn't just like on the gaming device. It's kind of, I feel like, all we got his first year, but it was in real sit-down interviews, whether it was he and Charles Woodson, and we saw that one before the UCF game this past season, whether it was the Heisman features that they did. We just seen him navigate at a really premium level. And that's what pros do. So I'm so looking forward to watching him continue to become a pro. It'll be fun to watch him get, discussed and dissected in advance of the NFL draft. But bottom line, he's probably the most complete athlete I think my eyes have ever seen in 25 years around college football. I'd imagine you would agree. He was just so special on so many levels. So on behalf of our founding partner 76 and us here at Y Option, that dude is that dude, Travis Hunter.
Indeed. And for our final of our 4 awards, we will stay in the Big 12. The headset hero goes to Arizona State's head coach, Kenny Dillingham. We kind of laughed about it at the time when we were, mentioning being in Vegas for the Big 12 Media Days when they were picked last in that preseason media poll. Go on to win the Big 12 championship. They won 11 games this year. That's almost twice as many as they won the 2 previous years combined. They're coming off back-to-back 3-9 seasons. And then they go on to win 11 games. He was the Big 12 Coach of the Year. I mean, this is a team, because of that media poll and just the perception around the team, this is a team that didn't even get ranked until the middle of November when they were 8-2. Like, it took that much to just finally, get people to believe in it. I think a lot of that has to do with, another that dude that you mentioned was Cam Scatterbo, and just how he really took over the imagination of the country. But I think he is such a reflection of Kenny Dillingham. Like, you even see the two of them in celebrations and stuff. Like, they're like 2 peas in the pod. It seems like. So just kudos to Kenny Dillingham, who really has turned that program just on its head.
Yeah, it's been one of the most fascinating things to watch and observe. So let's rewind the clock. About a decade ago, he was in school at Arizona State. I don't know about you, Jim. My favorite moment post-game of the entire season was when Kenny Dillingham is celebrating after a win and then sees the fans, fellow Arizona State student, I guess not fellow, they were Arizona State students at the time. And he just looks at them and goes, I was you, and loses his mind on the field. I mean, literally, that was my favorite. I get chills thinking about it now because he's always brought a joy to the craft. I can remember watching him as a young assistant. You track him, whether it was at Memphis or Florida State or at Auburn, and then he comes out and becomes the offensive coordinator. When you're calling games, you sit down with these coordinators. And I can remember in advance of calling Oregon, Arizona, he came back, and at the time, you had a feeling that the Herm Edwards era was going to end at ASU. And I remember asking very bluntly with Ted Robinson, my colleague for a long time, hey, you like being back in Arizona, huh? And he didn't shy away from me. He said, yeah, that's my dream job, okay? A little bit of north of here is my dream job. Heck yeah, I want to go get that thing. Like, he's always been open about his passion, his heart. And I think in the transient nature that, of course, college football has become, we know what coaches can do and where they often go. You go back to that opening press conference, this is where he's always wanted to be. You know, he breaks down and talks about the Valley and activating it. It was activated. I think of the Inferno this season. I think as they caught steam, as they take down an SEC opponent, as they run through the Big 12, you're saying, whoa, here this sleeping giant comes. And it finally became awoken. And I think watching their run in the CFP and that game against Texas, they were not a team that won a conference that was down. They were not a team that couldn't hang. To me, Texas could have easily been playing in the national championship. Texas, Oregon, you could debate who's the second best team in America behind Ohio State, right? Notre Dame, you could have that debate, but I think between those three, the way that the playoff at least shook out, and Arizona State was right there. You know, they didn't bail. They didn't back down from anything. They had, to me, the environment that welcomed competition. They had Jaden Rashada coming back after starting as a true freshman under Kenny Dillingham. He gets injured this time last year. In comes Sam Levitt. Out goes Jaden Rashada to another school. And here comes Sam Levitt. We're thinking, what's he going to do? What's he going to do? He had an elite season, and he's a guy who's talked about for the Heisman, entering his second season as a full-time starter in major college football. So I just love the environment he's cultivated. Then I think the last thing, it's often talked about that Colorado and Deion Sanders flipped their roster over the most dramatically among anybody. And yeah, that is true. But like 3 players less than that, if you tally it up or so, there's Arizona State. I mean, they had a dramatic amount of new faces in year 1, again in year 2, add in the coordinator and Marcus Arroyo. And the culture, which is so overused, but so paramount when it comes to still winning in the transient pay-for-play model that college football is, at least today, Kenny Dillingham's nailed it. He's absolutely nailed it. Picked last, finished first. What a beautiful story. I don't think this thing is going anywhere. And in the Big 12, I've always said it, if you're a SoCal kid, if you're a California kid, you want to drive, you want that short, less than an hour flight to go see your kids play, and you want to have a chance to be in a metropolitan area, and you don't want to live in LA, like, you're going ASU. That's what they have become. So congrats to Coach Dillingham. We love having him on the show. Hopefully we'll get him back on in the spring as well. He, Graham Rossini, and company, they've just done a marvelous job.
Yeah, and I think those last 2 awards, you really saw the like what you're explaining there too. You know, with that dude and the headset hero. Like, to me, like, the Colorado and Arizona State were the 2 favorites for both awards, and then just kind of like Travis kind of just eked out over Cam Scadaboo on the one, and Kenny ekes out over Deion Sanders in the other. But I mean, it could have gone either way. So it'll be interesting to see as both of those programs continue to evolve. Will they keep it at that level in the Big 12? Or will those 2 teams be ones that were, you know, in not only just this year, but in recent memory, not really part of the real conversation of college football, have really become part of the real conversation in college football?
Yeah, that's pretty cool. You know what we should do on social media too? We should start the conversation for next year's winner. Who's your front runner to go win these 4 awards as we bring him back heading into season 2 here at Y Option? Thankfully, we're bringing back one of my favorite humans of all time and one of my favorite quarterbacks and your favorite quarterback all season as well to this show. Welcome, Dillon Gabriel, live in person right here in Venice Beach, California. As always, every one of our guests are presented on behalf of our founding partner 76, keeping you in the know on the go, go, go. So here's Dillon driving up from training in Orange County. He's filling up at the gas station. He's finding his way right here to this place. We're going to get a meal. We're going to get a conversation. We're going to give that to you in this very special edition of Y Option alongside our partner 76 in our year-end award show.
All right, as mentioned, Dillon Gabriel, our 5-star QB of the year.
Let's go.
But way, way, way more importantly, we had your mom on this show.
Yes.
We had you on to begin the season. And I'm curious now, here you are in Orange County, Southern California, training for Pro Day, Combine, eventually the draft. If you look back on like the impact your parents had on you, like you were just around my 2 sons tonight.
Yep.
Imagine yourself back then and where you sit today. I'm curious how you put that into perspective.
Yeah, it's so important. I think just that time that I had with them, and it continues to evolve our relationship, but it's so special and I'm grateful for it. But I think as you get older, you appreciate more and more, the little things that they had done to, set me up for success. So I love them to death. They're a huge part of why I'm here, and just grateful that we're continuing to evolve and get better.
Yeah, amen. One of my favorite parts of the interview with your mom was that she's a communication major. So not surprised, like you're an elite communicator as well. She coached you up over the course of the last year because you got like a ton of attention, more so than probably ever before in your career.
Yeah, I think just being in the car with those, sales calls,
Yeah.
and her being in the sales department, you just hear a lot of conversation, but also just growing up quick, in my career and starting at a young age, but, just having a grounded, mom who has that experience, it definitely helps. And you hear it, not only day to day, but within her workforce as well.
Okay, so take me through, if you can, because I know you're in the moment, like you're training, you're getting after it, but your year was pretty special, right? Like the Heisman sent me a mug, right? Because we were hanging out with you there.
Yep.
We had a helmet behind you. We were looking at earlier today. You were there as a finalist. Like that's where we spent some time. Obviously, your team went on a crazy run up until the Rose Bowl. Like, have you had a minute to digest what you did in your time in Eugene?
I have. It was extremely special and something I'll still, hold on to, all those memories and experiences. But more importantly, I'm just grateful for that opportunity and that time. I'm blessed to be able to have it because, the ability to grow in your 6th year and not get stagnant and have a time of your life where you're uncomfortable. But it, definitely helped me out, and there's so many positives to that. So I'm grateful for that, and I think more than anything, I'll enjoy it way more down the road. But as this career is still going for me, that's how I want to celebrate it, is when it is all over, I can look back and just more importantly appreciate all the relationships.
Okay, I want to touch on relationships for a minute because you keep giving back to Mililani High School is where it all started for you. You've obviously been a lot of places. You went as far away from Mililani as you could when you went to UCF, and then you're stopping Norman, then you came on back to the West Coast in Eugene. What has it been like to still be connected to your roots in Hawaii and in such a place that all of us that have never lived there, it just screams family, and it's why so many say Ohana around it.
Yeah, I think, just that time I had growing up is extremely special, and more than appreciating that time, I think I'm just, very reminiscent, knowing that it was a time of learning and growing and finding what my passion was. And, that's all I want for the kids that grow up in that community. And of course I'm directly impacting Mililani, but the goal is long-term, all of Hawaii, and knowing that we're all finding something that we want to chase and pursue and find our passion. And I just want to be a help, whether it's a jumpstart or a kickstart for, a kid finding that for themselves. So any way I can do that, I'm being very specific with goals and trying to impact in that way. But definitely a lot of, goals down the road to help more and more.
I love that. Well, I know you probably didn't have a lot of individual goals this year, but you won an individual award on our show many, many times. So I don't know if you know this, but I wrote a book right here called 5-Star QB with Joey Roberts a while ago. And it was all about the history of the position and giving advice to people. So we created this award, my 5-Star QB, which we would evaluate quarterback play every single weekend. And then we give out the award. Well, this is our show of all of our end of season awards because the Burrells Award is done.
Yep.
And you, my friend, have won my 5-Star QB, and to present it to you, is one of our dear friends.
Let's go.
I'd like you to take a look at this with one of our founding partners, Neil Weingarten. Play this for yourself. I'm curious what you think.
Let's go.
Hey Dillon, Neil Weingarten here from 76. As the founding sponsor of both the Y Option podcast and their Go 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 Awards, it's my distinct pleasure to announce the winner of the My 5-Star QB Award for the 2024 season. This award is given to the QB who played like a 5-star QB, regardless of their rating out of high school. You came to Oregon this year and led the Ducks to an undefeated regular season and their first Big Ten championship, while setting multiple NCAA career records and becoming a Heisman finalist. A truly magnificent season and a great representation of not only your university and your family, but of West Coast college football as a whole. Congratulations on the award, and go Ducks.
Let's go.
What do you think about Neil?
I love it. Thank you, Neil. From one Duck to another, very appreciative of everything that you do, but just the support and love. So, and more importantly, thank you. The 5-star QB. Wasn't close to it in high school, but hey, I got it here.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. You did get it here. It's cool having this founding partner with 76. They've been great because we've given out these Go 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 awards. That's what we call them all year. It was really about athletes, student athletes, and coaches. They're just going for it. And I feel as though that has been your spirit. It's why we're so proud that 76 has gone with us on this journey here. But what about you think unlocks the willingness to keep going for it? Because it would have been cool if you're like, I played at UCF, or I balled out at Oklahoma, or had a Heisman final this season. But I feel like the dreams that you are trying to go for are just getting warmed up in your football life.
Yeah, the dreams get bigger and bigger. I think as a little kid, you have these goals and things you want to chase. But once you get to that point, the dreams continue. And I think I have an interesting journey, and it wouldn't be the same with all the people that have been a part of it, and the relationships I've grown in that time. And I think I've just grown stronger. I've grown better as a person, and I appreciate that because it's a tough game we play, and you're guaranteed things won't be perfect. So being able to adjust and surround yourself around great people, and that's allowed me to just keep swinging and have a great outlook on it.
So I can't help but think back to, like, everybody thinking about their own football life. If you're watching at home, you might be thinking about that as well. For me, my dream was always to play in major college football. And I wish somebody whispered in my ear, like, hey, slot receivers who are smart and tough play at the next level.
Yeah.
I'm curious for you, like, who breathed like the idea of the NFL into your ear, and at what age do you remember that becoming the dream that you're trying to go after now?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing was growing up, being able to watch my dad and a guy who played at the collegiate level, but then also, having that combination of a coach and a father, and how powerful that can be, and just the ability to balance both of that. I just appreciate that relationship because it also gave me vision and clear vision of what I want to do for myself. And, I think, like I said, as your dreams get bigger, once I got to the college level and, you're able to produce and do your thing, then you wonder what it could be like at the next level. And after that, so, I would say my dad, I think belief is so strong, and in a time where maybe I didn't have a lot of belief from others, externally, I had that internally in my dad and, my high school head coach, Coach Rod York. I think just having a guy that, believed in me from the get-go and allowed me to just take full reins of what was going on at Mililani High School. I flourished into my own, and I think that's powerful in being able to find myself at a young age.
Yeah. So I've said this many times on the air, and I believe it, and I have never shared it, I think, with you. So don't get too uncomfortable as I say this. But I've been around quarterback play for 25 years now, and I think really elite play for probably the last 20-some. And I believe that the it factor is the most overused, undefinable phrase. But when you do see it, I think people can kind of feel it. So how would I define it? When you walk into a room, people feel your presence, and you make them better. You've got the greatest it factor I've seen in 25 years in college football. How do you define, your own it factor. And I'm curious, even what's it like to hear that? If I doubt it's the first time you've heard that.
Yeah, not at all. I would say influence is such a powerful thing, and I think to limit yourself as a player and what you can do physically, as we all know in this game, there's got to be more than that. And influence is so powerful. And I think I learned it at a young age that being a leader, it can't be just leading by example. I don't believe in that anymore. I think that's just being a great teammate. But like you said, with a QB and that it factor, it's being felt, it's being heard. But then once you are felt and heard, it's creating that influence to make others better. And I truly believe that you have it or you don't. And it can be developed through experience, but also who you are as a person, just like any life skills that you may have, it'll show in every area of your life. So I'm confident in myself and being authentically myself. I think that allows me to just maximize what I can do. And it makes it super genuine. Yeah. And I think that's what people respect in a day and age where, there's a lot of facade and maybe blurred lines where you can be clear right to the point, but also have that level of respect because of you just being you.
Yeah. There's an unlock there that I think there's a certain confidence that you step into. I wonder for you, because you flirted with the NFL a year ago. You went and got your grade. You talked about this many times. You were like, it wasn't what I wanted, so you went to Oregon. How do you think, if it's true, has your last 12 months allowed you to unlock maybe this element of confidence where you really can just be you? Or have you always been that way throughout your football life?
No, I'd be lying if I said I've always been that way. I think you learn a bunch and you grow a bunch. And early in my career, with failure, I think I just grew stronger, and I learned more because truthfully, you don't want to feel like that again. But when it came to, all the things that happened successfully and in a good way, I think it was all because of that. So I think you grow from all those experiences, but if you don't have that failure, you'll never get to that point. So I'm actually grateful more so that I was just able to learn that at a young age.
It's cool, man. All right, so take us inside like your life now. Like, what's it like to be a quarterback training for a combine and a pro day and eventually the NFL draft?
Yeah, it's a lot of throwing sessions and workouts, lifting and speed, but at the same time, a lot of meetings, getting prepared for, these certain events. But what I think is so unique about this concept is, one, you got no control. So there's a lot of unknown and uncertainty. But two, you're training for these events while also getting prepared for NFL season, down the road. So you're juggling a lot, but it's got a unique way of keeping you present. And I'm starting to get a little more comfortable with the uncomfortable. So I'm trying to get used to that.
I love it. How about this? We're used to 74.9 miles per hour as the ball leaves your hand. We saw that at the Senior Bowl with our friend Rhett Lewis.
Yeah, I appreciate the glitch. I think whether it was truthful or just maybe misinformed information, maybe there's a different way to way you can see it. Then just depends.
That's pretty good.
Who knows? Maybe I can spin it. Maybe just watch the tape.
There you go. I love the line. Just watch the tape, man. It's been so much fun to watch the tape. It was so fun, honestly, though, getting to know you over the course of the last year, from the Elite 11 to hanging out with my two kids. Like, your influence is felt, man. I appreciate that.
Of course. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Okay. All right. Well, we can't leave you empty-handed. So here's a hat.
Let's go.
You got a lot.
I was just going to ask for one. That's crazy.
This is yours.
Let's go.
2 times you've been on the show. Your mom's been on the show.
I love this.
The only mom on the show so far.
Dude,
so
we're going to. And for future shows, I like this.
Yeah.
I like this.
Yeah, you rock that.
Thank you.
Rock that at your pro day if you want,
cool. Might have to.
No.
On the walk-up.
Yeah, there you go. I love it, man. Thank you for the time. Congratulations on the award. And I'll make sure to get you back on once you find your new team.
Thank you.
All right, you guys go.
And there it is. Y Option Year-End Awards, the Go, Go, Go Awards presented by our founding partner, 76. Jim, it was a lot of debate. It was a lot of dialogue. It was a lot of back and forth, but ultimately really proud to announce the 4 winners and have one of them, our 5-star QB, Dillon Gabriel, right here in this at the first time we've ever done anything from here. So our show is evolving. That's right. You can come on over. You can come, we'll feed you. We'll have a good time. We can do the show. Beautiful, man.
The Yogi Dojo.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, hey, big love to Neil for coming into the JoJo, at least virtually as well. That was a really fun moment with him presenting the 5-star QB award, the Y Option award to Dillon. Know that Neil, his son, actually was on the management side of Oregon for a long time. You could actually see him during games. You go back to like the Bo Nix era. It's pretty cool. His son would be the one always giving him the good balls, right? So he worked his pro day, so always connected here to the equipment staff, Kenny and company. So that's pretty cool that we have that connection with Neil. So big ups to 76 and Neil for making the time to go do that as well.
Yeah, and it sounds just awesome for Dillon to take the time as well. Obviously, this is a busy time and such a pivotal time in his career as he's making that transition from being a college student to being a professional. I think, in the past, the joke has been like, oh, this is always professional. You know what I mean? Like, but, it's just really cool for him to take that time to spend with you and share his thoughts. Cause he's getting ready to make that move, and it's going to be fun to watch him, fun to watch wherever it is that he winds up next season.
Yeah, I think we'll be tracking it along with many people, especially in the islands of Hawaii. Mom, our food wasn't as good as yours, but we did our very best here with Amy and the crew. Dillon was an amazing uncle to my two boys, and it's just been an absolute joy. So, Jim, let's put a bow on the award season. We're going to fully pivot here, looking at spring football, looking at the upcoming season. Schedules are out. There's going to be a lot of dialogue around college football, SEC, the Big Ten. I can't wait to get after in spring football. Will they be games? Will they be showcases? Will there be practices? That is a debate we will get into as well. And then a special shout out. One of my favorite people in this entire profession, Mike Cavanaugh, just announced he's on his way back to Oregon State as the offensive line coach. Coach Cav is an absolute legend in college football. He spent time in a few powerful places, namely Oregon State, Nebraska, Syracuse. Most recently, though, he was a key figure in the ascension of Oregon in the offensive line and mentoring these young coaches that Dan Lanning has hired. I mean, he's just a fixture in the game. Kyle Devan finds his way to the NFL. He's the assistant offensive line coach for the Chicago Bears. So congrats to Kyle. Big fan of him. Was just with him last week at the Oregon State event called the Rev up in Portland. But for Coach Cav, I mean, he's coached a lot of places, Jim. But when I think of him as a Beef. So for Oregon State, this is a coup. This staff is coming together in year 2 under Trent Bray, and to have a guy who is literally at the highest of level on the offensive line coach. Talk to anybody in O-line world, they reference Coach Cav. So big props to him, Trent Bray, for getting that thing done. We'll dive into that and many more storylines as the offseason continues. In the meantime, Jim, thank you to you. Thank you to our entire team here at Y Option, putting together all the cool graphics around this award show. And, of course, all of our friends over at 76. It's the weekend. For me, at least as we record this, I'm actually off to Tuscaloosa to spend some time with Kalen DeBoer and the Alabama football program. So I'll report back with some insights, some conversation, and we'll have some dialogue right here at yoption.com. Stay safe, everybody. Lots of love. Peace.